The phantom federal agency scandal. Hello everyone, welcome to the program and thank you for joining in. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimale, live for you in Abuja. Let's begin this evening by letting you know that a very key figure in the Buhari government, that's the former Attorney General of the Federation, has lost 48 properties as far as the court decision is concerned today. Justice Joyce Abdul Malik of the Federal High Court ordered the final forfeiture of more than 40 properties linked to the former Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami. Justice Abdul Malik granted the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, the application after holding that the respondent failed to report the reasonable suspicion that the properties were acquired through unlawful activities. Before delivering the substantive judgment, the judge dismissed several applications, motions on notice, and applications to show cause filed by Mr. Malami, his family members, and some companies linked to the properties, describing them as wanting in merit. She held that the issue before the court was not who owns the property, but how legitimate are the funds used to acquire the properties. According to the judge, the respondent had not dislodged the reasonable suspicion that the property was acquired by unlawful activities. We'll be getting some more insight tonight on the raging controversy around the phantom federal agency of government and those allegations coming from the man who has now been arrested in Osun State, Adeyemi Matthew, who the court is now hearing his matter, and we understand that furthermore the court will be hearing the case sometimes in the next few weeks, but is now in the custody of the Nigerian police as confirmed by them. More details, and we'll be getting, we'll hear from a lawyer bringing some facts, some evidence, and we'll be dissecting those for you. Again, the Nigerian NBA is in the middle of a major decision. How the NBA and the bar goes forward from here is going to be very critical. And tonight's program is getting all of these angles and perspectives for you. But before we get into the matter, let's have you some of your political roundup stories.
The Niger Delta Development Commission has launched a $500 million agri development and investment fund to finance agricultural activities in the Niger Delta region. Vice President Kashim Shettima performed the launch at the maiden Niger Delta Agricultural Development and Investment Summit, which held at the Banquet Hall of the State House in Abuja. He says the administration of President Bola Tinubu remains committed to ensuring food security in the country. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has announced a donation of 50 million naira as a support package for 5 families affected by the recent abduction incident in Orire local government area of Ogbomoso, Oyo State. The Senate President announced the donation during plenary, stating that the financial support is part of efforts to provide support for the affected families following the tragic incident. According to him, 10 million naira is for each of the families of the 3 servicemen who lost their lives during the rescue operation, as well as the families of the 2 teachers who were killed. Justice Peter Kekemeke of the Federal Capital Territory High Court Abuja has granted bail to the former chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Danladi Umar, in the sum of 100 million naira. In a brief ruling, Justice Kekemeke ordered that the defendants must provide one surety in like sum, and the surety must possess a valid certificate of occupancy. In his ruling, Justice Kekemeke held that the prosecution failed to establish that the defendant was likely to jump bail or interfere with the witnesses, and consequently granted the bail application. Administration. Justice Mohammed Umar of the Federal High Court Abuja has adjourned a suit filed by a presidential candidate for the Accord Party, Benga Hashim, seeking recognition as the party's candidate for the 2027 general elections. On the day's proceedings, counsel to the Accord Party and Independent National Electoral Commission served fresh court processes on Hashim's legal team. Hashim's lawyer requested time to review and respond to the new documents, prompting an adjournment. Mr. Hashim is asking the court to declare him the party's valid presidential candidate, arguing that he emerged as the sole aspirant and winner of the party's June 30, 2026 presidential primary, but that his name was not forwarded to INEC. The Nigeria Labour Congress NLC is advocating for a national minimum pension for pensioners, as organized labor and the federal government gear up for negotiations over a new minimum wage for workers. The president of the NLC, Mr. Joe Ajero, made the call at the National Conference of the National Union of Pensioners in Abuja to assess how pensioners are faring under the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. The president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Mr. Joe Ajero, made the call during the National Conference of the National Union of Pensioners in Abuja, a gathering convened to assess how pensioners are faring under President Tinubu's administration.
There you have it. You've been served with your political roundup stories. The Senate today, for the second time, rejected a motion seeking an independent legislative investigation into the controversy surrounding the presidency and the alleged Director General of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council, the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, the PFIPC, Mr. Adeni Adeyemi. The controversial matter, which has dominated public discourse for more than 2 weeks, was again brought before the upper chamber today by Senator Suleiman Kawu. He made a similar request last week without success in seeking to raise the matter under matters of urgent public importance. Take a listen to how he went.
Then today I came under Order 41, 40 and 51 to discuss the issue of urgent need to investigate the establishment, budgetary allocation, operations, legal status, and controversy surrounding the purported Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council to safeguard the integrity of the Senate, the appropriation process, and the federal government.
In my view, the issue is overtaken by events. Number one is that the culprits have been charged to court, and so it becomes sub judice. And number two, the president has set up a high-powered committee to investigate the subject matter from the formation of the fake agency all the way to budgetary provision and offices and opening of accounts and all that. So that is also being done. If we go into it now, we will probably be jumping the gun and trying to force a fait accompli on whatever the court is doing, because prosecution is ongoing. So is it the view of the Senate that this issue be suspended in view of the various actions being taken by the executive?
Yes.
I rule in favor of the Senate that this issue is suspended.
All right, then. There's so much more for us to dissect, so much to learn more tonight. We'll be getting and probing into an angle or perspective that those of you who are watching tonight will be also curious about. And it's going to be a very interesting one. But before we get into all of that tonight, let's go on a break. And when we come back, we'll dig deeper into the matter. Join us again, everyone. With us. Let's get into the matter that a lot of Nigerians are talking about. Yesterday, I got a guest who is a former minister, a former head of an agency of government, to give us an understanding of what it takes to be able to maneuver the system, if that's the case in Mr. Adeyemi's case, or what really happened. and it's an issue of accountability. But the controversy surrounding the alleged Presidential Foreign Investment Promotion Council, the PFIPC, has entered a new phase, with questions now extending beyond the conduct of one individual to the strength of Nigeria's public institutions and accountability systems. Following the arrest of the self-styled Director General Adeyemi after a federal high court issued a bench warrant over his failure to appear for arraignment on charges including alleged forgery and impersonation, the Senate has again declined calls for its own investigation, citing ongoing court proceedings, and President Bola Tinubu has directed for the ICPC to conduct a separate probe where the legal process unfolds. The debate has brought into include legislative oversight, institutional due diligence. What is the involvement of Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila in the eye of the law, in the eye of governance and policy delivery? What should the government of the day, well, you heard what Atiku Abubakar said yesterday about what the government should be doing. But tonight, it does look like Mr. Gbajabiamila has got some defense. And I've got a legal consultant to Mr. Gbajabiamila who are presenting facts and some documents tonight. And let's hear from them. I'm being joined by Mr. G.T. Ogunye from our Lagos studio. He's a legal consultant to Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, the Chief of Staff to the President. Mr. Ogunye, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight.
Thanks for inviting me. Good evening, Nigerians.
So you're not speaking as a Nigerian citizen and a lawyer. You're speaking as though someone who understands the fact from the point of view of Mr. Gbajabiamila. And my first question would be, and as Atiku has posited yesterday, that in a climb that is saner, according to him, Mr. Gbajabiamila should be asked to recuse himself or step aside. Mr. Ogunye, what facts do you have tonight to defend the reason why Mr. Gbajabiamila should not be in the backyard or stepping aside and allowing the due process of probing and investigating this matter, as a man that has been caught and alleged to have obtained money for appointment in this matter?
Well, you know, the first thing I would say is that a desperate attempt is being made to canonize infamy and to make a superstar out of a gangster. And it is fashionable for politicians to draw wool over our eyes so that truth finding then becomes difficult. Of course, in the circumstances of what is going on now, it is apparent to me that a desperate attempt is being made to lash on to Prince Adeyemi and use him perhaps as a political weapon as we're approaching an election. Unfortunately, the weapon is blunt. And I think that those who are on this course should just, given what I've seen and what I've read and the briefings I've taken, I think that Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila should be commended for kickstarting that accountability. His office reported the person in question. He wrote letters to the DGSSS, to the Inspector General of Police, calling for investigation when it was reported to his office that something as despicable a conduct as what Prince Adeyemi was doing, had been going on for long. First, going by the chronology of facts and events, the Chief of Staff to the President, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, first got wind of this informally from the Executive Secretary of Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. And of course, he dismissed it that no, there is no agency like that. But later, The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, first, the Economic Trade and Investment Department wrote to the Office of National Security Advisor to inquire about the status of Prince Adeyemi Matthew and his agency. And that Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this time from the Office of the Permanent Secretary, separately wrote another letter to the Office of the Chief of Staff, dated 16th October 2025. Both letters, separate letters, dated 16th October 2025. And by 17th of October 2025, the Office of the Chief of Staff spontaneously, immediately wrote to the DGSSS, sounding an alarm and calling for investigation and arrest and prosecution of those who are, forging documents and impersonating, particularly regarding the office. And clearly stating that the letter of appointment that was being paraded, that he knew nothing about that letter. That was October last year, 17th October last year, and we are in July. This whole matter blew into the open just like a month ago. And I will provide the reason why in a short while. And after that letter was written, shortly thereafter, there was an investigation by the police in October, and Prince Adeyemi was apprehended and detained for 23 days. Nobody knew about it then. He wasn't talking about being killed then. Detained for 23 days and was eventually then to be arraigned before a court. And this is important for us to know, for Nigerians to know. He was brought to court to be arraigned, and that's why, Justice Muhammad Umar, issued that bench warrant on the 5th date that should have been a date of appearance. He was brought to court after 23 days to be arraigned, and he gave an excuse that his lawyer was not available and he had a right to fair hearing, so he should be allowed to go so that his arraignment would not take place. So, as we speak, he had not been arraigned before that court. On the second date, his lawyer appeared, and that time, the excuse was that he was ill and could not come to court for trial. On the third day, the court didn't sit, so the matter was adjourned. On the fourth day, the excuse was that he was available this time around, his lawyer was ill. The 5th appearance was yesterday, and there was another excuse. This time around, I was going to be killed. My life is not secure, so I'm not going to come to court until he was fished out of the hole somewhere in Osun State where he was hiding. Unfortunately for him now, the court had adjourned the matter to November 30th, and I do not know the magic that will be performed to ask the court to come and perform or have a special session for that fugitive from justice to come to court and be arraigned in court. Now,
Mr.
Ogunye, the point to note as follows.
My first question is to the effect, and one of the most important and fundamental principle of law is issue of fair hearing. And there are those who will say, and the other arm of the principle of fair hearing is that you cannot be a judge in your own matter. The man has said, look, I will not get justice, and there's no way ICPC can indict Mr. Gbajabiamila. And there are those who say, why would Mr. Gbajabiamila be in office? Why this matter is being investigated? Justice would not be served. And that's why I asked the first question. Why would Mr. Gbajabiamila be in office? As the case Atiku cited in the case of Babachi Lawa, who was asked to step aside. Why is Mr. Gbajabiamila not stepping aside for this matter to be resolved or investigated and the facts emerge? Is he willing and is he able to step aside? As is consulted legally, Are you able to speak his mind on this matter? Is he able to step aside for the sake of fair hearing?
Fair hearing is not imperiled, except it's being suggested that the goal was to get rid of Mr. Gbajabiamila from office. The ICPC has been charged to investigate this matter. So how will his being in office obstruct justice for the man who says that he's not going to get justice? And I don't think just
sorry,
that
Mr.
just
Ogunye,
give me a moment
and this is the perspective.
A presentation.
The chief of staff is the shadow, of President Bola Tinubu. Whenever Mr. Gbajabiamila appears, we imagine that is representing, is the face, is the voice of President Bola Tinubu. President Bola Tinubu set up a committee. Invariably, that kind of message would have gone through the office of Mr. Gbajabiamila. If a report on that committee is coming, it will likely go to the office of Mr. Gbajabiamila. The man in question, who is that man versus Mr. Gbajabiamila, is on the receiving end of the stick. Mr. Gbajabiamila, from the argument of those who are the school of thought, to say, look, he cannot be in office. Why this matter is being investigated is unfair on that man, except, why the man is asking that constitute a neutral and independent body other than the one that Mr. Gbajabiamila will have influence on. That's what I'm asking. As a lawyer,
okay, let me
will it be fair to
answer.
say, can Mr. Gbajabiamila step aside why this is being done?
So first, that question ought to be more informed than that. And that's why I wanted to make my presentation first. Ought to be more informed than that. Why? Because this man, in the chain of those who dealt with him, if I were to say Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila is the least person, is the least authority that dealt with this man. So if Mr. Gbajabiamila were to leave office because of this investigation that some partisans are calling for, and some journalists are mouthing that the United Nations should come and investigate. No institution in Nigeria is competent to investigate. So who will leave the office? The DG budget office that dealt with the man on record, the head of service that dealt with the man on record, the SGF, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, whose office dealt with the man on record, and whose officer ensured that the man got an office at the Federal Secretariat, the Accountant General of the Federation. All this will have to leave office. Is that what you are saying? If you look at the trails, the paper trail, the documentation, and all that, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila was the person who had the least official interaction with the man we are talking about. So, except there's something there that I do not know why people are going for his head. I don't see how his being in office is so important or not important to the investigation that's going to be conducted. In any case, the matter has been charged to court for the man to answer to his crime. And so we have a fugitive who has been running from trial. So it amazes me that that kind of person can be the person that will be lionized and be used as a whip to whip somebody out of office. The person you're talking about has stated repeatedly, up to the point of, becoming repetitive, that office does not issue a letter of appointment. You brought Chidoka here yesterday, and he stated categorically that the office of the chief of staff does not issue letters of appointment. What about that? What about that? So I think that the issue here is not just about Femi Gbajabiamila. I think that the issue here is more serious. And so that was what I wanted to call attention to.
Mr. Ogunye,
and that's the issue of systemic failure. What I see, how
on this
a conman
just for a moment, sir. Just for a moment, sir. Tonight on this program, it is Shehu Okimbaloye in the same frame and the same screen with GT Ogunye. There are cameramen around you. There is a director right there in the Lagos studio, as it is right here. But what Nigerian people can watch and see right now is GT Ogunye and Shehu Okimbaloye in the same frame. Transpose that to the matter we are talking about. It is Mr. Adeniyi Adeyemi's word against Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila. And so it suffices to say, it is Mr. Gbajabiamila that has an explanation to make on the allegation that he took 400 million naira allegedly through a Tanimola who is now pronounced dead in circumstances that Adeniyi is saying it is suspicious. And those are the facts that we need to deal with. Now, the first and foremost, Mr. Ogunye, does your client, Mr. Gbajabiamila, can he prove that truly he doesn't know anything? Does he know Mr. Tanimola? Does he know how Mr. Tanimola died? Because the allegation from Adeniyi Adeyemi is that they should ask Gbajabiamila how Tanimola died. Those are the allegations. The big question here is that Mr. Gbajabiamila does not issue communication from his office. All of a sudden, Mr. Gbajabiamila issued a communication directly disowning Mr. Adeniyi Adeyemi. That's where the Nigerian populace say there's something wrong here. What are the defense on this matter, on this issue that I've raised?
Can we break this thing down? How do you ascribe to me a letter that was forged, which I have denied that I didn't issue? How do you ascribe that to me? And that ordinarily in that presidency, that office does not issue a letter of appointment. Indeed, the way Nigerians discuss these things, it betrays lack of proper understanding of how the presidency works. Are Nigerians aware that there's a permanent secretary, State House, who is the chief accounting officer of that presidency, who gives approvals to all spendings? Okay? In that State House. So, the privilege of a chief of staff is that he is the head of the staff of the president. And it's a recent development in our political history. Indeed, it was this president that started it in Lagos, and then, President Obasanjo also started at the same time, model it after the American way of doing things. Otherwise, you'll have had cabinet secretary and so on and so forth. And I think that they still have those ones now. So the point I'm making is that this fixation on Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila is rather unfortunate. I have just told us that those who dealt with the man, those who interacted with the man more, are the offices I've mentioned, generating letters, making requests on his behalf, and so on and so forth. And it will be necessary to investigate to find out whether we are dealing with culpability here, willful culpability, or, innocent negligence. And I think that is the latter, given the way Mr. Adeyemi has behaved. For example, Mr. Adeyemi, that some people want to, project and trumpet his cause, was arrested for 23 days. He didn't shout Gbajabiamila then. He didn't say that I was going to be killed. Indeed, he didn't want Nigerians to know. It will appear that the crime of Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila was that he issued a disclaimer, as he should issue, on behalf of the presidency on June 11. That was when the man, realizing that, the entire world perhaps now realizes, his conmanship, that he then came out and said, since you had issued a disclaimer on me, I'm going to be brutal against you. Before that time, he never mentioned Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila. Before that time, the police investigated him. He never talked about 400 million. So, certainly, you are dealing with a con man. I find it very difficult saying this, that this matter is being elevated to a level it ought not to have been elevated. But I understand, you know, government,
yeah, so
trust in government
Mr.
Ogunye, once something happens, everybody just believes, oh, it must be so.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. Otherwise, on that point, otherwise, Nigerians will then inquire about the situation whereby somebody was arrested in October who was to be arraigned in court, who was running away from court, didn't say anything about Gbajabiamila, didn't say about his friend being killed by somebody he didn't know, didn't say anything about his phones, you know, being lost. He had no contact, he hadn't anything and all that. And lately, he said that he had not met Mr. Gbajabiamila one-on-one. He had not spoken to him. That he only spoke to him through his dead friend. And so on and so forth. So the point is that in the chain of interaction, official interaction, you had a man who forged a letter and took that letter to these institutions. And this institution took that letter without making inquiries and started acting and started generating letter and started generating codes by which he was able to have his name, you know, of his agency in the budget of 2026, for example.
Because of our
the other thing that Nigerians should care to know, no, just wait.
Yeah.
The other thing Nigerians should care to know is that here is a man who said he gave 400 million naira to somebody. Because I've been wondering myself upon, you know, looking at this matter. So was this man's intention? Not only did he forge a letter of appointment, he also forged a law. And this is the person that you're talking about. He forged a law in the name of that fake agency.
Allegedly, because he has not been
Identity Management Commission law as a precedent and patterned it after that, loading himself with powers to borrow, to do all sorts of things. And with these two documents, he infiltrated the federal bureaucracy. And they started dealing with him until the office of, you know, the Foreign Affairs Ministry then wrote that letter of 16th of October to make a formal inquiry. And pronto, the person
Ogunye,
that
please, I apologize.
many want to bulletin now,
there are fundamental,
then wrote
and I don't know why my
SSS,
audio is not getting to Mr. Ogunye. Mr. Ogunye, let me get to you. Guys, please help me. I don't like the fact that Mr. Ogunye is not hearing what I'm saying right now. Please, if you can hear me, Mr. Ogunye.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, great. Adeniyi Adeyemi publicly claimed that he paid 400 million naira through an intermediary to secure the appointment he says he received. Your client rejected that allegation. Will Mr. Gbajabiamila support a full forensic investigation, including financial records, phone logs, digital communications, and testimony under oath to establish the truth beyond public deniers? Mr. Ogunye, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you now. Yeah. Just go over that again.
Tonight is, I don't know what's wrong. Is it that he didn't have lunch or what? I mean, this is too crucial for us to be, the audio to be messing us up. Can you hear me, Mr. Ogunye?
I can hear you a little bit now, yes. The audio is...
Great. Let me take this question again, because there is an issue of transparency and accountability here, and it's very crucial. This is not an issue of Gbajabiamila or Adeyemi, it's the issue of institutions and systems, which makes a nation or any institution as that. You must create a system that is trustworthy, that is fair to all. And that's why it's important for us to put the feet to of anyone who is in public office to fire. And that's why I'd like to ask you, Mr. Adeniyi Adeyemi claimed publicly that he paid 400 million naira for a job which he said came from Mr. Gbajabiamila, and through an intermediary, Mr. Gbajabiamila has denied and rejected that allegation. And I'm asking you tonight, as his legal consultant, will Mr. Gbajabiamila support a full forensic investigation, including financial records, phone logs, digital communications, and testimony under oath to establish the truth beyond public deniers?
Of course. Of course. It's obvious that that will be done because he owes himself that duty and Nigeria that duty. And that's why I'm really happy that the presidency, didn't just say, oh, the matter is in court now. It's ordered full investigation by the ICPC. And I think that Mr. Gbajabiamila will, fully participate in that process. Not only him, but all the other persons in the chain. And there'll be a lot of internal, inquiries over this matter. And that's why I'm fortified by what I know now that Mr. Gbajabiamila is not even the person to be bothered about this matter. But, it's what it is. If you're in public office, you must have something like this.
My other question, Mr. Ogunye, to you tonight, right?
Yeah.
I would like to know, Mr. Ogunye, the prosecution is alleging that official State House... Oh, no. Can you hear me now, Mr. Ogunye?
Yes, I can hear you clear. Yeah.
All right. The prosecution is alleging that official State House documents, including an appointment letter purportedly signed by Mr. Gbajabiamila, were forged and used to secure access to government institutions. How do you explain the apparent acceptance of those documents by multiple public agencies? And does this point to institutional failures that extend beyond your client?
Will reveal. I've spoken here clearly that are we dealing with a case of middle-level officers, engaged in willful culpability or innocent negligence? If somebody brought a letter that had a semblance of the original, and people then started dealing with him, acting on that basis, you may blame those who have not done their due diligence, but you can only blame them up to a point. Because at the end of the day, this is not, you must know, something that came to light by investigative journalism. No. So it's not Anushe Naj matter, investigated by Premium Times. The same person, the same office was the office that called for investigation. It was that office that issued a disclaimer. So, to that extent, people may be willing to give that office the benefit of the doubt that how could you have an ally? How could you have an accomplice? And then be denouncing him, be writing letter for his investigation, and so on and so forth. And the person that is saying that he was going to be killed or silenced, I've just told Nigerians that he was arrested for months. He didn't want to come for his arraignment. So he wasn't killed while he was in custody of the police for 23 days. So it beggars believe that, this kind of allegations can be made the way it's been made. I admit, and everybody has admitted, that there are systemic issues here. How could you just see somebody with a letter and then you start dealing with him? If you are familiar with correspondences from the State House, from the presidency that appointed you into offices, why would you not know that this is fake? Because that should have been a red alert, a red flag immediately. That if you saw a letter
we need to leave it
written by or purportedly written by an authority that wasn't usually issuing that letter, why would you not raise an alarm? Why would you want to deal with that person?
Thank you so much, Mr. Ogunye. We needed to, since your client in your person seeking an opportunity to explain to Nigerians, it was important to have. We've had Mr. Adeni Adeyemi speak on this program. It was also good to have a balanced conversation to get Mr. Gbajabiamila.
You are examining me. You didn't allow me to make a presentation before you ask follow-up questions. I would have preferred that.
Yeah, it was important to put those questions, but thank you so much indeed. I appreciate it. Yeah. Quickly, let me tell you, at a point in time in our nation when the Nigerian Bar Association is once again at the center of national attention, the race for its presidency has become more than an internal contest among lawyers. It has evolved into a broader conversation about the credibility of professional institutions, the integrity of electoral processes, judicial independence, and the role of the bar in defending and deepening Nigeria's constitutional democracy. Tonight, out of the three persons that we know running to lead the Nigerian Bar Association, I have one of them in the studio. Is Mr. Yemi Akongbe. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria, a presidential candidate in the Nigerian Bar Association election. Thanks so much, Leonard Stick, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Sheon.
Why do you want to lead the bar?
Well, if you look at the association is one that is set up for the promotion of the rule of law and the welfare of its members. And I believe that leadership is about improving the lives of people. I have welfareist credentials. I believe in the welfare of members. And my agenda is to improve and promote the welfare of lawyers in Nigeria.
But, I mean, I don't know whether those issues are settled. There are agitations on the process for that election. And there are those who are saying, it does look like there is a political underpinning to what is going on within it. And it's split the bar. Egbe Amofin Odua, which is a group of lawyers within the southwest and the southern western part of Nigeria, had come vehemently claiming their position. And they've vehemently also said the position of Mr. Alpha Moshigwe as an NBA president is something that they are not comfortable with. Are you comfortable with the process that the NBA and the committee for the election has put together?
Well, I think there's so many things mixed up in what you have said, and I think it's better to give context and give a balanced view to the conversations or the narratives out there. So you mentioned the Egbe Amofin, which is a group of lawyers of the Southwest extraction.
Are you a member of Egbe Amofin?
I am a member by virtue of the fact that I'm Yoruba.
Are you their choice candidate?
No, I'm not.
Who is their choice candidate?
Well, the Egbe decided to impose, if I may use the word, Are Olumiwa Kimboro on the members as their own preferred candidate. So, and I've been consistent on this issue from the get-go. I made it clear that you cannot have such a process, which I consider to be a predetermined process and undemocratic. And I said, we cannot continue to do things the way we used to do things before and expect a different answer. In time past, the Egbe has always done that. And on this occasion, in all the past, in all the times we've done in the past, I've always made my position clear that I don't think that is the way to go. When it was done in 2019 or 2020, when Dikin Adesina was preferred over Mr. Ajibade SAN, I made my position clear. And I said, I believe in democracy. I'm a Democrat. And I believe that should be the process.
Are you saying this because you are not favored?
No, I'm not saying this. Even if I was going to be their candidate, I would have told them that let's ensure that it's internal democracy. Process is very important in what we do. It's not about the outcome, but the process of arriving at the outcome is extremely important.
There are different court orders flying around. I guess that they have now been struck out now. And everything is now clear for the election, isn't it?
It is clear for the election.
Are you okay now with the email procedure of conducting the election?
So, before now, and it's good to give a context, it's very important to say that I do not think at any time that government was trying to interfere or intervene in the election of the NBA.
So you're okay with the position of the AGF?
Yes, but the AGF, if you know him very well, is a principled man who is firm. And his intervention arose out of the fact that the Egbe Amofin went to court in Oyo State to get an injunction. Two injunctions. One saying that their candidates, that there is a micro-zoning within the NBA constitution, and that micro-zoning should be respected. And if it is respected, it should be the preferred candidate of the Egbe that should emerge. There's also another one challenging the electoral process, the constitution of the ECMBA in the first place. So those two actions were in court, which have both been
set aside
now. But the first one, which is the one about imposition, I don't agree with that one. I think everybody should be allowed to run.
Please give me a moment, sir. I need to go on another break. But when we come back, I would like to ask Mr. Akombe whether or not Afam Osigwe wants to impose a candidate on the bar and whether the process will deliver a free and fair process. We'll be right back after this break, everyone. So much, everyone. Our closing moment with Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Yemi Akombe, a presidential candidate in the NBA election of Saturday. NFC, do you think Saturday election will be free and fair?
I believe so, given the conversations that we've had, the highest level, stakeholders' engagement, and given the resolutions from that meeting, I believe that we would have a free and fair election.
Afam Osigwe is trying to impose a candidate.
Well, to the extent that he said that he can be neutral in the election, I'm not making an allegation of interference in the electoral process. But say justice is not just to be done, but seems to be done. I don't believe, has done anything to interfere in the process. I don't believe he would do that. But from the utterances, from things he has said, that it's not neutral, it can't be neutral. 10 persons have taken that to mean that you can't do that. And that's one of the reasons. If you look at
do you think the process will be fair?
The president?
The process.
The process. I believe it would be fair.
All right. Mr. Yemi Akombe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and a presidential candidate in the NBA election. Thanks so much indeed.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I guess I'll see you after the election.
Thank you very much. And I believe you'll be congratulating me then.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.